Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Virgo energy. And like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as High Vibe Virgo, and the light just came on a little brighter. And the bottom row can represent a more worldly, shadowy energy. Virgo energy is about being illuminated to the truth and high vibe, where you're motivated and inspired to get to the truth, to be illuminated to the truth, not wanting to keep things hidden in the dark. You know, we've all got our own shadowy nature, which could be kind of things we don't want to deal with, that we kind of keep hidden in the dark or we don't want to look at. It can be our fear, our insecurity, our pride, our ego, our codependency, our lust, our greed, our lack of self-belief. And our Virgo nature wants us to see through the illusions and the fear and the confusion and the insecurity, to live our more authentic life and to free ourselves from those things that manipulate us. And some people are doing that. You know, we all do that at different times in our life. When we're kind of ready to deal with the truth is when we'll deal with the truth. Sometimes we don't even realize some things within us that manipulate us. Normally I get a card for the overarching reason for each row, and I did not get that for the top row, so I'm going to shuffle a card to get, and it's the Pisces card, which is the Hangman, and it's kind of interesting because on the bottom, the reason for the bottom row's reading, when we can kind of want to just stay in our comfort zone and we're repeating patterns, is because we haven't been enlightened to the truth. And the Six of Cups can talk about getting balance within ourselves emotionally, in our more worldly viewpoint, kind of in our Virgo viewpoint. You know, Virgo is earth sign energy, and we all tap into Virgo energy, you know, and there's things of the world that we want and things we want to indulge in and things we want to manifest. But the bottom row can represent that we're kind of tipped out of balance. We could be kind of indulging poor behavior in ourselves. We could be indulging poor behavior in others. We could be too caught up in these things of the world. And as people go through these life experiences, they might kind of work through their more shadow nature, those fears and things like that, and get more balance within themselves. And Virgo and Pisces are on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel. And I believe that we go on these journeys in life to learn all these lessons to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't, and maybe see how we're kind of tipped out of balance. And Virgo energy would want to get more balanced in their Pisces energy so that they can have a mix of both, a balance of both. And some people are doing that, and some people could be tipped more into their Pisces nature or their Virgo nature, because if Virgo is the opposite zodiac sign, you could be a Virgo, but you know, you could be a more emotionally loving, nurturing person, because Virgo pays attention to the details, it puts a lot of work and effort into relationships, and they could let their more loving nature run their life, and then their Virgo nature can come in to try to get them to see the truth that things need to be more balanced. There is supposed to be equal give and take, and it starts within ourselves first. And then when we get more balance within ourselves, yes, I do want these things of the world in my Virgo nature, but in my Pisces emotional nature, I also want deep, meaningful relationships. I have my own dreams and my own aspirations. I have my own creative, more inspired nature, my intuitive nature. And I want to move forward in the world, to put work and effort to have these things that I want to manifest in the world. But I want to listen to love and intuition to offset and balance out my more worldly nature, because high vibe Virgo is represented by the 8, 9, and 10 of Pentacles, where I want these things and the stability and the security and all those things, but it needs to be a balance. it needs to be stable. It needs to be grounded. People have to put in work and effort. But I'm not willing to make those things so important that I kind of let go of my dreams or being in more balanced relationships or deep, meaningful relationships. I want to be in a career and a workplace that I like and I enjoy. I want to be in friendships and relationships. And some people who might be more tipped out of balance might be like, you know, love and deep, meaningful relationships are overrated. It's more about me or these things of the world is the most important thing. And sometimes we can get in these more mismatched relationships and we could be repeating a pattern of the past and then we can kind of feel stuck. So we can all repeat a pattern. We have a certain way of living life and viewing life, and we get in these different situations in our life, and then there can come a time, and it's different for everyone, that as you're moving along, you could kind of feel stuck. And when we feel stuck, it kind of feels like the universe has us hung up in a way. And we could wonder, why do I feel stuck? And when we feel stuck, it could be an opportunity for us to try to look at life from a different perspective, try to look at things from other people's perspective, expand our perception of ourselves, how we view ourselves, what we believe is possible, how we view others, how we view relationships, to realize there's more than what we could have been doing, right? I mean, when we lived our life and we were 15 and 18 and 21, we thought that was great. And yeah, it was great. But there kind of comes a time where you feel kind of stuck, and we could keep doing it. At the end of the story, in the bottom row, we have the Page of Cups, and it can just be our more codependent or fearful nature of moving forward in life differently. And right before that is the Nine of Wands of being defensive. And some people are defensive to love, because that would require them to maybe work through some issues in their past in order to be in more deep, meaningful relationships. And some people are kind of more immature. You could look at what, in tarot, we have the pages, the knights, the kings, the queens, and those can kind of represent our emotional maturity level. Some people have learned 5 more lessons emotionally than some other people in the world. And again, we're kind of more mismatched. One person could have offered love to the past and their defensiveness and have worked through some of those issues, so they have come. Again, the Six of Cups can kind of mean coming to a place of balance. I've kind of reconciled myself with some of those issues from my past, and all of that did maybe used to have me stuck, but now I have kind of just dealt with the truth of it, because Pisces in high vibe of the Hangman is being enlightened to the truth, and high vibe Virgo is about being enlightened to the truth. We've all been in different relationships, and we've dealt with people that are somewhere on the spectrum of having learned these different lessons in life. Down here we have the Knight of Swords, the Queen of Wands, the Lover's card, which is Gemini energy, which talks about our dualistic free will nature. And then we have the Emperor and the Nine of Wands. We could all have known people, and we could have been one. For one, the Knight of Wands is kind of defending our truth and what we think is just and fair based on, how we view life and kind of our viewpoint and what we think is just and fair and our dreams. Is kind of like the King and Queen of Swords send the Knight of Swords to fight on their behalf, and we do that within ourselves. In our King of Swords and our Queen of Swords energy, Libra and Aquarius energy, we have a way of viewing life that we think is just and fair, and I think my dreams are going to come into reality. But for the first many years of our life, we could be operating from our ego, is what the Queen of Wands can represent. And the queens can talk about how we think and feel. The masculine cards can represent how people are presenting themselves in the world. Are we really who we say we are? Have we really learned these lessons in life? Or are we defensive? High vibe Sagittarius is about learning lessons. Are we kind of defensive to moving forward, because in between the one wand of the Queen of Wands and the Nine of Wands is the Eight of Wands, which is kind of moving forward in life. How are we moving forward in life? Aries energy of the Emperor is about the self. Have we learned to love ourselves? Or are we still kind of defending, operating more from our defensive nature, our immature nature, prideful nature, defensive nature, all about ourself nature, or just still really caught up in these things of the world that we're sure more important than love? I get hurt doing love. I'm defensive of letting my more loving nature out. I am still more aligned with my egoic defensive nature. Well, then we might be taking action more because we're kind of more in love with ourselves. Because if we were going to be in a relationship with someone else, up in the top row we have the Fool, the Knight of Wands, which is Sagittarius energy, and the Two of Pentacles, and the World card. If we wanted to go take a leap of faith, and high vibe Sagittarius is about, again, higher learning and education, but it's also looking at life as an adventure to be lived, that I have dealt with. I've been in my own more immature, shadowy nature. I've dealt with people that were in their more immature, shadowy nature. I've maybe known people who are more manipulative and in love with themselves, or kind of bossy and controlling, and it had to be their way or the highway. Could have been more motivated and inspired by ego and status, or image was the most important thing, or indulging themselves in relationships, and they could think having sex with people is love, and they just got some lessons learned in life, and they could be defensive and kind of immature, or just defensive to authentically doing love, and they operate more from their defensive egoic nature. And we could have all grown up in family situations and social settings, communities. We've all dealt with people who are more defensive, who are more manipulative, who are more bossy and controlling, who are more immature, who are defensive, and we've worked together with those kind of people. And some of those people were people we looked up to and admired. They were people we wanted to have a deep, meaningful relationship with. We could have at one time been kind of on the same page, gotten along, and then people became defensive. And it's confusing. If you're going to go take a leap of faith to stand up for your more hopeful, believing, loving nature, you have to do this work to work through your own shadowy nature and how you can be defensive to love because of other people that you've been in relationships with. And that does take work and effort, and some people are like chasing after people, trying to inspire and motivate them. You should love and believe in yourself. You should stand up for yourself. You should work through these issues of the past. You should have better boundaries within yourself. You should look at life differently. You should pick up your investment in those old ways of doing things. But, everybody's got free will in their Gemini energy, and they are where they're at in life. They view life the way they view it. They feel the way they feel. They view certain ways of being as just and fair, or they're just immature, or they're very defensive to being hurt. We all at different times in our life had people kind of chasing after us saying, you shouldn't do that, and why do you do that, and why don't you love and believe in yourself? We can't look at life any differently, and we probably won't until we end up feeling stuck. You know, kind of pride. And I say that because the Queen of Wands is Leo energy. We're either, we have these lessons to learn. So we're pretty sure we're right. Pride comes before the fall. And that's sometimes how we have to learn lessons, right? Because we do have our more worldly nature. Again, there's all these things that we want to do. And we also have this way of viewing life that we think is just and fair. Based on how we grew up and where we grew up and how other people in our life live life. All those things affect how we view life. And we'll probably repeat some of those ways of being because we've seen other people do it, and we could have looked up and admired people, and we could have thought, wow, they are living the dream. I'm going to go live my life like that. And sometimes we follow people who are setting a good example, and sometimes we're kind of following people who aren't setting a good example. We just don't know it yet, right? We can chase people if we want. That's like shadowy Knight of Wands. You know, we can offer people truth. Us being enlightened to the truth, Virgo offers the truth and high vibe. We can offer people truth and love and still have good boundaries within ourselves. I can meet all of these different people in the world. I can treat everybody in a just and fair way. I can try to inspire people to make better decisions in their life. I can be a good role model. I can temper my more egoic, immature, defensive nature to work together with people more cooperatively, treat people the way I like to be treated. And then I let them make their own decision because they're going to do it anyway, really. So, shadowy Aries that we can all harness can kind of be where, and then the Queen of Wands would kind of get in our ego about it. Like, well, I was just and fair, and I was authentic, and I was loving, and I was warm, and I was encouraging. Like, why aren't you willing to be in a relationship with me? I don't understand. Well, because for some people, that's not their truth. And if they are more defensive, more about themselves, or they like, you're either truthful and honest and authentic in relationships, and you're motivated and inspired authentically to want to work together with people in a just and fair and loving way, or you're not. And when you're not, some people are defensive to harnessing all these energies in a more high vibrational way. Because their truth is they might harness all these energies in a more shadowy way. Defensive to being more authentic and loving. They let their ego nature run their life. My inner hopeful believing nature is going to look out through my eyeballs, and I'm going to dream of all these things I wish I could do or would do, but my more defensive nature kind of is in the driver's seat of my life. And I kind of let my more self-protective, defensive, egoic nature run my life. And so then people in a relationship can try to manipulate and control people to get them to do what they want in a relationship. Not really working together with people more cooperatively from love. Might I want to be in it? Might I want this job, be in this friendship, in this relationship? Yeah. But I have my way that I like to go about things. How about you? Be loving and nurturing and encouraging and supportive and stable and grounded and balanced and all that great stuff. And because you want to be in a relationship with me, instead of seeing the truth, the way that our truth is different, the way we want to move forward is different. Their idea of the dream life and your idea of the dream life is different. But so long as you feel stuck and you don't want to acknowledge the truth, that's kind of shadowy Pisces energy. I want to be in denial of the truth. How about I'll keep juggling the truth and I'll keep chasing after you, trying to get you to change? And they're like, hey, that works for me. You keep trying to get me to change, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Or I'll keep creating this illusion that I will change. But I keep making these decisions in the relationship that aren't conducive to a relationship moving forward in a more just and fair, stable, grounded, loving relationship. And with two fire sign energies up here, this is Aries, just like the Emperor, and that's Sagittarius. We can be attracted to people. We can, same way we could just like a job. Oh my gosh, this job kind of really makes me look like a boss, makes me look like I got it going on, or they pay me good money or something, right? Or I am in a place of position of power, influence, or something in it. I don't want to go anywhere else to go get a job, but dying these people I work with, you know, but I'm unwilling to quit. The world card can talk about closing out a cycle. I'm unwilling to close out this job, friendship, or relationship with some of these people in my life because I could be afraid, what if I go pursue something else and I get stuck and it doesn't work out the way I want, right? So some people keep staying in situations that they would maybe rather get out of. The Nine of Wands can be like the wounded person. If you've been loving and authentic and encouraging and authentic, and other people the Two of Pentacles can be where you work cooperatively. You have your truth and you have your dreams. I have my truth and I have my dreams. And you kind of have your idea of what you think is just and fair. I have my ideas of what I think is just and fair. It's supposed to be where we work together, and that's what you do when you're an emotionally mature person. You work together with others from love. You know that it's not just supposed to be the the scales of justice aren't always supposed to be tilted more in one person's favor, and sometimes things can be more tilted in favor of someone else at different times. And it's kind of like we're there for each other. Sometimes when we could have some fears and insecurities and some things make us defensive, hopefully the other people in our life are loving and encouraging and supportive, and it kind of helps us get more balanced. And then sometimes they're a little more tipped out of balance and we offer love and encouragement, but we have this common goal of wanting to work things out, and we're not more defensive or immature and more about ourselves. But the truth is, some people still are. And so, they're going to go repeat an old pattern because they still have some lessons to learn. And again, here we have one wand and here we have 10 or 9. Again, the Eight of Wands in fire sign energy can talk about being inspired to move forward in life differently. And some people just aren't yet. And, we have to understand some people are younger than us, and, they're probably going to go make some of the same mistakes we made, you know, and other people are just emotionally more immature, and some people really are more full of themselves, and they do think it's just and fair to be more about them, and they want to be in relationships with people who make it more about them. And if you have good boundaries, well, shit, you go get in a relationship with someone else. I mean, go chase after someone else to go get in a relationship with. Because shadowy energy can be where if some people think for some reason they should be indulged, they have status, image, power, social clout, whatever they think they got, or they're just full of themselves, or that's just how they view relationships. And for some reason, they think they should be the more indulged person in a relationship. Well, and it isn't about doing more equal give and take from love. They could think you live in fantasy land. shadowy Pisces. You're caught up in the illusion of love. You need to grow up. This is a dog eat dog world, and you might have these illusions of love, but other people in the world know that if you want these things of the world, that people are trying to manipulate other people to have a certain status or image and look a certain way and have a certain stability and security. And if I have those things, I think you should indulge me. And they in turn think, anyway, that they would be willing to indulge someone for those things. But sometimes some people go do that and then they find out, shit, I'm going to let them go. No, I like being more the person who's indulged, and I'll go try to find me another hopeful, believing, loving person that might be wounded because something didn't work out the way they wanted, and they might feel stuck. And I'll try to convince them that I harness these energies in this high vibe way, whether they're male or female. I'm not bossy. I'm not controlling. I'm not manipulative. I don't have ulterior purposes. I'm not more immature. I'm not more stubborn. I'm not more my way or the highway or more materialistic or self indulgent. But they are, And sometimes it can take moving forward in a relationship for quite a while, 8 weeks, 8 months, 8 years, until you kind of realize, wait a minute, I better stand up for my more authentic, loving nature because I think I'm being authentic. I want to work on this relationship. I want this dream to come into reality. And now, when I started to feel stuck and I couldn't figure out why I felt stuck, I kind of got inspired that, maybe it's not them. I mean, that's what high vibe people do. Because sometimes people do wear a really good false mask and you can't figure out, you know, um, Pisces can kind of be where things are so buried under the surface. And then we could be repeating some patterns. And, in our mind, we've grown up in certain ways. We kind of think certain things are just and fair. And so it's confusing. And it's sometimes things are so subtle, it's hard to figure out. So then some high vibe people might want to take some time that instead of more arguing or being defensive, they want to take this time and they kind of get inspired to take that leap of faith that I'm going to take some time to work through some of my issues because I don't know what it is that's making me feel kind of stuck. I don't want to blame other people. It might be something within me. So they go do this work within themselves to work through some of their past pain and heartbreak, their fears, their insecurities, offer themselves love and compassion and forgiveness, offer love and compassion and forgiveness to people in their past, see the truth. I think these people were kind of this way and that way, and I didn't really think that was just and fair, but I just see the truth of it. Leo energy, also represented by the Sun card. I'm going to offer love and compassion to it all because I don't want it to make me more defensive to love. So I am going to deal with the truth, offer love to it, make this decision to the only person I can change is me. If I was a child or I was younger or I was more naive and I was more gullible and there was more hurtful, bossy, controlling people in the world, I'm going to see the truth of that. As I got older and I was my own human being learning lessons, I'm going to see where I need to heal and grow and mature myself. But I'm also going to see where other people didn't heal and grow and mature themselves, because I don't want to repeat that old pattern. And just make peace with the past so I can let it go. And when I do that, and I went on that journey to kind of wrap my brain around this game of life, then in the Two of Pentacles, which is Capricorn energy and shadowy Capricorns represented by the devil, we've kind of lifted up our investment being kind of more on these things that kind of manipulated us and issues from our past that made us defensive to loving and believing in ourselves or standing up for ourselves or thinking we had the right to stand up for ourselves and just coming to peace with all of it. And then we're kind of more balanced and the devil talks about all those things that can manipulate us and control us and all that. And you kind of freed yourself. And that is you kind of learn the lesson you're meant to learn. Something in your life could have challenged you to do this work within yourself. And some of you, if you've ever been in a relationship where you knew that you were kind of being more immature, and if you wanted to move forward with some other people, you needed to buck up. And say it's like a job or just a friendship, that, you can kind of, sometimes you have to do it really quick, but, you can kind of, some things can go more gradually. It just depends on how bad your behavior could be. You know how hard that is. And you kind of juggle back and forth like, should I just tell them to fuck off? And I'm going to go, because it does kind of get us in our ego. If we're in a relationship with someone who, if they are or not, because, maybe we really don't know what's going on with them, but we view them as someone who we could think is more stable or grounded or mature than us. And then we got to work through it because there's part of us that just doesn't want to do kind of, if we're kind of used to indulging ourselves in some way, maybe to make ourselves feel better, or, like you're like a stick in the mud and I don't know why you don't go live your life more like this. It's really hard. It can be really hard. But for the people who did do that within themselves, well, now they weren't the same person anymore. It's kind of like they did close out whatever way they could have been when they first got in a relationship or a friendship or a job. They're not that same person anymore. They have looked at life differently. They have worked through some issues in their past. And then when one person in a relationship changes, it kind of changes the whole dynamic. Because it's kind of like we were playing catch but that's kind of just like a metaphor. Like, I'm going to do this, and then you're going to act like this, and then you're going to go do that, and then I'm going to act like this. And we kind of have this way of playing ball with each other in life. And when one person is kind of like, I used to do it that way, but I'm not doing it that way anymore. And I don't really have an interest to play the game of life that way anymore. And I'm kind of inspired. Fire sign energy is being inspired. Pisces can be that you're inspired because you just kind of view life differently. You kind of put things in a different perspective, and it kind of helped you wrap your brain around this game of life that, everybody I've dealt with in their life is just at where they're at. Some of them, I could have been a child, they could have been an adult, and they were not very authentic or loving, or they were more bossy and controlling, or they were in a more codependent relationship, or they were full of themselves, or they were manipulative, and it's just like, I just see that everybody is where they're at, and all of us in our free will have the free will to choose to go back and forth like all of our life and never want to kind of be more two-faced, or we keep kind of aligning maybe with our more worldly, egoic, shadowy nature, or we can make the decision that I'm inspired to love myself, because Aries energy is about the self, to stand up for myself. I don't want to repeat these patterns, and I want to work through this so that I can go on this new journey and do things differently. I did do the work to look at life differently. Some people in my life didn't, and so they lived their life the way they lived it. I don't want to live my life like that. Life is an adventure. Life is about trying to find these things that you enjoy in life that make you happy. You have the free will to sit and be in energies and thoughts and emotions that are encouraging and supportive and loving, and be with people who are like that, or not to be. And it's not to stay in denial of our feelings and our thoughts, but if we're sad, do we have to stay in them all day? Or can we go enjoy our day, and then maybe when we have some quiet time to ourselves, we could kind of work through some of those emotions and feelings, and reading books or watching movies or exercise and all these different things that can kind of be cathartic for working through some of those feelings, or helping us look at life from a different perspective to help kind of snap us out of a way of thinking, right? So you're kind of ready to go on this new adventure, and some people in your life did this work with you. They're moving forward with you. They don't have to be on the same page as you necessarily. Like, that's great. You do you. I'm still going to do this. But from a place of love, we treat each other with love and respect. We don't expect, we could all have brothers and sisters and other family members and people in our friend group. Do we all got to live life the same? No, you do you, I'll do me. And we're all kind of going on our own adventure. And we realize that everybody looks at life differently. But high vibe is, I wish you peace and love. Hope it works out for you. I kind of think, though, that I got it going on, so I'm going to go do this. And, we just let people live their life. It's more of a challenge if it's someone that we really did want to have move forward with us. And there can come a point in time where those people are like, I could have people in my life that say people, between say if they're married, well, yeah, those people should take your priority in your life, so long as it's just and fair and stable and grounded, but sometimes we have people where they can have people in their life who are more bossy and controlling, and we can get in relationships with people that have family members or friend groups that are kind of more, I don't like you hanging out with those people who love you, encourage you to believe in yourself and look at life differently. You should have allegiance to us and hang out with us or whatever. And some people are still kind of more codependent on that friend group or family group or something. And until they're maybe more willing to stand up for themselves, because high vibe energy and high vibe Virgo is being more independent, or they could just be caught up more in their ego and things of the world. So we deal with the truth of it. High vibe people, and some people right now are going through this work within themselves, just even thinking about, what if I were to stand up for myself? What if I were to tell some people in my life that, and when we quit aligning with these energies in a more shadowy way within ourselves, just even kind of energetically, we're kind of communicating our truth. So as some people could be just thinking about this, kind of energetically, because it's really kind of interesting. I can't give you a link or anything about it. It's kind of hard to find, but it was, I know it's been like on Gaia TV, but how we have a brain inside of our skull. We don't really see kind of what we see. We don't really hear what we hear. We see colors and things give off waves, and our eyes kind of translate that, and it goes into like the computer of our brain, and our brain has like software in it that we came with that says, oh, that's like a tree. And then we, of course, get taught growing up, that's good, that's bad, that's a tree, that's whatever. And even hearing, we have eardrums that vibrate. We don't really hear, and our brain knows how to translate that. So I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just really fascinating. And that, oh shit, what was the whole point of talking about that? Something about repeating some patterns. Well, I guess that was just a tangent. Anyway, let's go to looking at this card here that's not showing itself. Oh, I know. When people were thinking of what if I were to stand up for myself? What if I were to love myself? What if I were to be more loving? Just the fact that so the whole point of that tangent was that kind of everything is like an energy creation in the world, colors like trees and the colors that they give off and all that stuff. It's more of a energy, and words go through the air. We puff out breath in certain forms, and it sends air movement. It vibrates against our ears. So it's this whole thing of, and of course in tarot, if you watch tarot, it's all energy. That in itself, so much of what we say to ourselves, what we think to ourselves, even what we can dream of, has an energy signature in the world, and that can make changes. How do some people know that, you know, that if you had five people who kind of looked the same, dressed the same, but the whole thing is we carry ourselves in certain ways. We could talk in certain ways. We could choose certain words that we choose to use. We could have certain ways of moving, and all these things, so much more than just what we look like and what we wear, kind of all combines into this energy way of being in the world. And I think when people just kind of do this work within themselves and even just tell themselves, I want to get more balanced. It's kind of like putting out, well, a manifestation and a dream. I want to reconcile myself with things of the past. I want to stand up for myself more. I want to believe in myself more. I want to make better decisions in my life. I want to be in more authentic, deep, meaningful relationships. And then, though, in Virgo energy, it's earth sign energy, so it's bringing something into the 3D. We can emotionally want something, two cards of emotion. This is Scorpio energy, that's Pisces. We can all want, that's where it starts. It starts in the mind. It starts in our creative, inspired, fiery nature and our emotional realm. And the same thing about some people who didn't move forward, they can tell, some people can tell, like, oh shit, you've been enlightened to more truths in the world than some other people, right? Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna try to. If I know I'm someone who likes to try to manipulate people and I'm kind of immature, yeah, no, I don't think you're gonna fall for that. Yeah, I need to go find someone else. you know? And you also, with other people, just kind of being around people, is like, yeah, I don't think we're quite on the same page. I think we view life a little differently. But there's always, you know, it's kind of like more worldly, shadowy people are trying to get people to align with them, which might be a little easier because our shadow nature is kind of tempting people in their lust and their greed and their pride and their ego and their defensiveness. High vibe energy and people try to encourage people to love and believe in themselves and look at life from a different perspective and work cooperatively with them from love. And everybody has the free will to choose, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? But if they're going to do truth and love and justice and fairness, they've got to put an end in shadowy Pisces to kind of living an illusion that they can be more shadowy and just try to manipulate someone into thinking they're not more shadowy. They would really have to, it would challenge them to kind of heal and grow and mature themselves and believe in themselves. And some people do want to do that. And sometimes we can just have friends like, wow, I would have never thought of doing that. That was really fun. I would have never looked at things that way. I am so glad you kind of view it that way and told me about it because it makes me view it now completely different. Sometimes we can have situations going on in our life where we feel kind of stuck, and then someone else is like, well, why wouldn't you do this? It's like, well, I never even thought of that. And part of it can be if we've kind of been indulging some people in their poor behaviors, it can be kind of hard to stand up for ourselves to get the justice we deserve. And we could have fear of standing up for ourselves, and well, then they won't like me, and then they won't work with me. It's like, do I want them to really, my dream can only come into reality with people who are kind of more on the same page as me. And if you kind of want to keep repeating these old patterns and be more immature, I'm going to wish you peace, and you might not, you might be mad. And I think you're going to go learn some other life lessons with some other people. It's not just me that has a problem with you. And you maybe don't realize that yet. And I've been kind of indulging you, and you might have some growing up and maturing to do, just like we can do in relationships or workplaces. Okay, now let's go look at this card. The Moon card, which is Pisces energy. So, in a more worldly, shadowy way, Pisces can talk about, and especially the Moon, which the Moon also rules Cancer, the third water sign, about love of self and working together with others from love. You know, we can all be caught up in the illusion of the world. We can all be caught up in our ego. We can all have these issues from our past that we don't even realize, because Pisces can kind of represent the subconscious of all these things that could have occurred in our life, but we thought, well, that doesn't matter anymore. I'm not a kid anymore, and I've worked through that. I don't think it's that big a deal. But then, as we kind of move forward in life, that's when we kind of might realize, like, wow, I kind of have a fear about, maybe taking this more responsibility at work, or being in a relationship with someone who I kind of feel might be kind of different outside my comfort zone. And why do I think that? And then that can be kind of these things that we have to deal with. And I think high vibe energy is saying, listen to your intuition. The people if you've already, in your way, thought you were so smart, lived your life a certain way, and it maybe didn't, some of the things you went to go try didn't work out the way you thought. How about trying to look at life that, it's like the divine is trying to help us manifest our dreams into reality. But if we keep repeating these certain patterns, and we keep being defensive and like, no, I got this, I can control this, I can change these people, or I have a good idea. It's like, yeah, you've done that before. How about you take a leap of faith to go on a journey, and maybe even taking some time alone? Because Virgo can talk about taking some time alone just to really get clear about your own truth, get more balanced in your more worldly and hopeful believing nature. Work through some of these issues so you don't repeat some of these patterns, and seeing the truth that, we can only work with people who work with us in Virgo and the Capricorn energy, right? We can only have a new beginning with people who are willing to have a new beginning with us. But we could be kind of defensive because we're in our ego and we really think maybe they should want to be in a relationship, and I'll just keep waiting. Well, if that's what you want to manifest, you could manifest that. Or we deal with the truth. Some people are a high vibe person. They're like a role model to me. Okay, now thank you for being a good role model. Apparently, this isn't working for us to get in a relationship. I believe that God is in control of the bigger picture. And I'm going to go on this journey. And I think life's about learning lessons and shedding old versions of yourself. Who knows what God's got planned for me? I can't even see life from that perspective because I haven't been there yet, right? And sometimes we get in relationships with people who don't listen to their intuition. It can always be, no, I think I'm right. No, I think I know best. No, I want to repeat this pattern. We need to do life like this. We don't close out living life like this to look at life differently. So, shadowy energy can seem kind of stagnant. High vibe energy is giving birth to something new. And some people, with the card not showing itself and the moon, can be these fears we have about stepping into unknown territory. And some people could have a lot of fears of doing life any differently than they grew up with or other people in their life. And high vibe energy is just being more independent of your more worldly egoic nature. And some people have made their whole life about conforming to the world and making their life about, I don't know, the status or the image, and people have to view me a certain way. And that's what I use to try to get people to want to be in a relationship with me. It's like, how about we get out of the illusion of the world, and how about we treat people the way we like to be treated, and we go live our authentic life, not trying to hurt anyone, not being, just being an emotionally mature, stable, grounded person who goes and lives their life treating other people with peace and love and joy. And it's like, and some people are really defensive to listening to their intuition because their own more creative, inspired, intuitive, loving nature is always working with them to try to get them to do that. We're either aligned with our more shadowy nature or our more hopeful, believing, loving nature, and they are defensive to that. Nope, not doing that. That can only lead me to trouble. Maybe why? They maybe listened to their intuition in the past. They were drawn and attracted to certain people who came into their life to help them see something that was buried beneath the surface, but they might not want to see it. We can all choose to live in denial of the truth and not want to deal with the truth. If some people have some issues from their past, I don't want to see the truth of it. Could they have had some people they looked up to and admired that were defensive or bossy or controlling or manipulative? I don't want to acknowledge the truth of it. Have I been bossy, controlling, immature, blah, blah? I don't want to, we can all choose in our ego, I don't have to deal with it. I'm going to just keep moving on, and I'll just go on a new adventure with someone else. The problem is they don't ever deal with those issues, their pride, their ego, their immature nature, their codependent nature, their manipulative nature, all about themselves, stubborn, whatever, fear. And they keep dragging it with them to the next relationship or the next job. And then sometimes the same thing happens at the next job. People can be like, oh yeah, you should come work with us. And, and they try to work with them and try to get things to be more balanced, to close out an old cycle, to move forward. And then these people, they're kind of more tempted to repeat some of these old patterns again that aren't conducive to moving forward, or they just kind of get in relationships to indulge themselves in it, but they really don't plan to bring the dream into reality. So I think some high vibe people have been in relationships with people like that. They've kind of learned some lessons about it. They've kind of made peace with it. When we are in jobs, friendships, or relationships with people who are inspiring us to work together with us, to look at life from different perspectives and have a deep, meaningful relationship or friendship or supportive and encouraging in a workplace, why would we do some immature things to sabotage that? And there could be some people, we have free will. Well, I think it's just and fair for me to be more about me. It's probably because they're kind of defensive to love, maybe. I mean, if the truth is you got yourself into something that you really shouldn't have gotten yourself into to begin with, it doesn't really matter if they're loving and encouraging and authentic and supportive. This really isn't my truth, and I've maybe been kind of juggling the truth. well, then they should not move forward with it. That would be them not moving forward with things they shouldn't move forward with. But other people, it's just like, oh, do I have an opportunity to be more immature? I think if I leave, some of the people I'm in a relationship with, they'll feel stuck because I kind of juggled them. And then maybe if this doesn't work out, maybe I can come back. Well, some of the people that people left, do this work within themselves. Well, that wasn't just and fair. I thought this person was more mature and responsible. But, you do all the work and then it's like, maybe I didn't want to see the truth that maybe they really are more bossy or controlling or immature and you kind of work through all of it. And then sometimes some people, we've all been kind of more immature. We all weren't ready to move forward in life. Sometimes some people can come back together in friendships and relationships because they know that they both were more authentically motivated and inspired to begin with from love. And they knew that when they were in a relationship with them, that they liked them and could have admired them in a lot of ways, but maybe people just weren't ready to be in a more deep, meaningful relationship. And then people can go on their own journeys in life. And then it's kind of like, you know, I could have, for whatever reasons, I've done what I've done, for whatever reasons they did what they did. That's when you're kind of like, shit. And I could have been drawn and attracted to certain people because they were the type of person to help me work through some of those issues that I needed to work through. That the other person kind of, if it did trigger some of those things for me to have to work with, then the relationship might not have lasted. So I was like, no, you're not ready to be in a relationship with them. You two aren't set. You are two puzzle pieces that would fit together, but you both got some lessons learned. So, and sometimes those aren't people that we dated, it's just people that we knew, and sometimes it's people we haven't even met. It's kind of like God is trying to get everybody to learn these lessons. You are going to be drawn and attracted to people. Don't give up on your dreams just because you were drawn and attracted to certain people. All of that was to help you learn to stand up for yourself, love yourself, have better boundaries within yourself, work through some of these issues from your past so that you would look at life differently. And then you're ready to go on this adventure, being a much more balanced person in the world than you were before. If you like, kind of like getting in a relationship with certain people, you can kind of, maybe you could have viewed a lot of things the same, and you kind of would have been a more less inspired, wouldn't have learned the lessons you needed to learn. It kind of would have kept you more in an immature stage. And because of the life experiences that you went on, everybody in life is learning these different lessons. And then it's to, when some of those don't work out and our intuition tells us it's time to go, other people could be mad because you are standing up for yourself. You're not staying in the illusion and you're going to move forward in life differently. Well, they maybe repeat an old pattern and they could really like to repeat a certain pattern in a way of living life, and they're going to go try to find someone else to repeat that pattern with because you realized that wasn't your truth. Go on the adventure, trust the divine. The divine is trying to get the right people together because together, maybe, having people who kind of are more authentically loving and encouraging and supportive at the stage of life that we're at now is how we can help give birth to that next phase of life. In the meantime, we can work with our creative nature, our worldly nature, our jobs, our friends, our relationships. Um, if there's not a more romantic relationship, But I think if you keep moving forward, I think you will be done feeling stuck because you will meet other people as you move forward. Quit investing your time, energy, and effort more into the people. It's like we can all have friends, but who do we invest more time, energy, and effort into? When you invest your less of your time in the people who've already shown you, this is like wishing them peace, but I have good boundaries to you. Can I know you? Can I be your friend? Uh, acquaintance? Yeah, but, you know, I'm kind of going maybe on a different journey, and I would like to find people who are more on the same page as me. So what's coming up for the high vibe people? We have the Nine of Cups, the Five of Pentacles, and the Ten of Swords. Why? Because of the King of Cups. So I view the King of Cups as Cancer energy because you took action, because the kings can talk about taking action in the world. And it is really, you've done this work within yourself, that really is who you are. You are an emotionally mature, stable, grounded, loving person who does try to see things from other people's perspectives, is inspired to go on this journey. You have learned lessons. Because you did that work within yourself, the Eight of Cups going to the Nine of Cups, you're independent of an old cycle and an old way of viewing life, living life, and kind of ways of being in relationship. And in the Five of Pentacles, you again have detached from an old foundation to move forward. And then the Ten of Swords, kind of like the World card, is completing a cycle to have that new beginning. And you're done moving forward with people who harness that energy in a more shadowy way, where they might wear a false mask, they might present themselves as like a loving family person, but that really isn't, kind of more what drives and motivates them. They might be more emotionally invested in the world and living more from their mind than their heart. And it's kind of more of a mental strategy to present themselves a certain way, but it's not authentically what motivates and inspires them. People can act loving, talk loving, get in relationships with people, but are they authentically loving and warm? And high vibe Scorpio, you want a deep, meaningful relationship versus a more superficial, shallow relationship. And you don't want people to be in a relationship with you just because they feel left out in the cold and things they went and invested in didn't work out. It's like, no. If you want to go be indulge in a relationship just because things didn't work out, or because you want to backstab someone else, no. Go find someone else. Unless you are done with an old cycle pattern relationship and ready to be independent of it and move forward, close out a cycle and move forward, looking at life from a different perspective, being more balanced within yourself, inspired to that when you make decisions and your decisions are going to affect other people significantly, you're going to take those people into consideration versus just being about yourself because you defend your more immature nature. And no. You stand up to your more shadowy nature to defend love and work with the loving people in your life. And I think as you're moving forward in that energy, other people see that. And that's why some people are like, oh yeah, shit, I'm not there yet. I'll go find someone else that I can maybe be immature with, or manipulative with, or bossy and controlling with, or juggle. And it's like, I'm not going to settle for less. Go and enjoy. Go enjoy those relationships. If you want to be in a relationship with someone who isn't trying to manipulate people, isn't trying to control people, is loving, is independent, is inspired, is done with some issues from their past and relationships from their past to go have a new beginning, well then, and there will be some people who will do that. And there will be some people who don't. We live in a world of duality. What's coming up? Some people have been enlightened to the truth. Some people previously could have been defensive because, like, no, I think you're more manipulative, no. And really it could have been that they were just a little more defensive. And then, as they could maybe get to know people or just even watch as they're over here juggling, watching other people live their life, it could be like, shit, that person really is who they say they are. I was kind of going back and forth if they were really that type of person or not. Well, shit, I'm going to stand up to my own shadow nature, and I'm going to close out that cycle, and I'm going to move forward with them. What's coming up for some people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Virgo energy that they might not see coming up? Oh, and by the way, for the people who have been loving and encouraging and supportive, and you've been trying to change other people and kind of chasing after people, they like that. They thought that was just and fair. And when you decide to stand up for yourself, what you don't see coming is that some of those people, because they feel left out in the cold and you're not indulging them anymore, might try to do something to backstab and betray you to make you stop this and come back and do the relationship the way they want you to do it. Loving people, if people love you, they don't do things that they know will be hurtful and unkind. It's immature, and it just shows you they're not on the same page. They got some growing up to do. What's coming up for some people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Virgo energy? Card not showing itself because of the shadow side, which is the devil. Well, for one thing, the shadowy kind of people are kind of more aligned with their shadowy nature. Something kind of has a hold on them. Lust, greed, pride, ego, wanting to be bossy and controlling, being defensive, don't want to do love, immature, got some lessons to learn. And because of that, they could have some people who aren't willing to stay in their life anymore because some of the people in their life have been being loving and encouraging. And eventually those people realize that they harness this energy differently. The Empress energy. The Empress is Libra Taurus energy, which in high vibes about love. In a more shadowy nature, I think it's just and fair to be more about me or more about these things of the world or be indulged. And the other people were loving, and they could have viewed these other people at one time as loving, and maybe at one time they were. But it's kind of like we can be loving and encouraging to each other in a relationship, but then it can get to that point in a relationship with the 9 and the 10 and the world. It's kind of time to close out an old relationship dynamic and move forward in life differently. And the other people were ready to give birth to something new, and the other people aren't. And it could be just because they haven't learned to love themselves, haven't gotten balance within themselves, or you just kind of realize in your Gemini and your Taurus energy, the Empress is Libra and Taurus, that kind of your philosophy of life is different. And how you envision life and what your truth is and how you expect to move forward and the things that you want to give birth to like next in your life is different. And so they could have some people who were loving and encouraging. And again, it could have been a more codependent relationship because we all can be more codependent because we grew up in families and we really haven't learned to love ourselves and kind of get more balanced within ourselves. We kind of look outside of ourselves and go take action towards these things in the world for people to love us and value us. And kind of validate our worth and value, and high vibe Virgos knowing your own worth and value, and learning to love yourself, to be able to be more balanced within yourself than if you don't have like a caregiver in your life, providing that love and encouragement to you. You could be looking for people to kind of play that role in your life. And high vibe people learn to do that within themselves. That's how I view high vibe Leo. And you learn to do that within yourself. And it's like, I might have been more codependent. And if some people were to want to come be in a relationship with you, I think you would get to know them. But if you realize that they still want to repeat this old pattern where it is more codependent, like, how about you love me like a parent would love a child, and I get to be defensive or bossy or immature, or you indulge me the way a mother would a child's like, you're not a child, and I don't want to be in a relationship with a child. And even if you are my child, are you an adult now? Then grow up. That phase of life is over. And it's all time for people to move to the next stage of life. But if you just notice that some people, the devil tries to create the illusion they're loving and like, oh, make your life about all these things and you'll be happy. No, love is what ultimately makes us happy. Being in workplaces, friendships, and relationships with people who are authentic and loving and encouraging versus being in friendships or relationships with people who are like a dark cloud. But they keep expecting you to keep indulging them in their poor behavior. And they're going to have some loving people leave their life. And, there'll always be other people. These people, in their own way, could shine bright in the world. They could be attractive or charming or have status or image or social clout. They could try to use those things to try to get people to get in a relationship with them. High vibe people might have those traits and characteristics also, but it's not to try to manipulate people. Those are just extra perks I might have. But I'm motivated and inspired by love. And these people, kind of like God uses everyone for God's good purposes. There's a lot of other naive people, in our loving nature, we can think, oh my God, everybody's loving. Oh my God, everybody would choose love. And, we got to learn the hard way that in a world of duality, there will be people who that is not their truth. They are more manipulative, egotistical, controlling, If this exists, this has to exist, or we couldn't have free will. And we need to be illuminated to the truth of that and quit staying in denial of the truth of it. If we have had, can people change? Yes. Have we all been kind of more immature, blah, blah, blah? Yeah. But the people in your life that have shown you, they kind of maybe repeatedly, I'm kind of more about me. I like to manipulate and control people. I'm defensive. I don't really want to do deep, meaningful relationships. I am more superficial and shallow. I am more about my ego and my image. I am more about me. And I think it's just and fair. Those people probably aren't going to change. And eventually other people that get in a relationship with them, they have the free will choice to either defend these people, just like you could have at one time, same way as some other people in their life could have. And there's going to be other people that's like, you can keep defending that if you want. I think I've seen enough. I'm out of here. And then other people might decide that too. It can take time to get to know people, and we're fired up about these things in the world. We want these things to work. We can put a lot of work and effort into it. And sometimes we just had lessons to learn about listening to our intuition. And then as we go through those life experiences, high vibe people are definitely listening to their intuition. Wait a minute. Like when you see somebody do something, it's like, what the fuck? No. That is shit that people did when they were 15, 18, and 21. No, I'm done. See ya. And they put an end to it. I do not view you as a loving person. I view you as someone who the devil tries to create an illusion. That's not who you are. You are not just and fair. You are not motivated and inspired by love. You have your own ulterior purpose to either get in a relationship, to be in a relationship, to make someone else mad, to make it look like you've healed, grown, or matured, and you haven't. And you're playing games. And I don't want to be in a relationship with people who are still juggling the truth. I have been illuminated to the truth. You're either truthful and honest and authentic and loving, and you put in work and effort, and you are authentically yourself, or you're not. So there you go, Virgo. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.